As I've gone through these holidays, there's been some interesting cultural traditions that I've seen here. Some of them the same, many of them the same actually, but many different and interesting. First thing, I call this our Christmas and New Year's Eve in Moldova, because although they celebrate them here on the 25th of December as we do, and also on January 1st, they actually also celebrate the Old Christmas, which is on January 7th, which is when the Orthodox Christians celebrate it, supposedly representing when the wise men actually visited Jesus in the manger and gave him gifts. And then they celebrate New Year's again, which is under the old calendar, which is about the 14th. So pretty much from the middle of December to the middle of January, they're celebrating Christmases and New Year's, which is kind of interesting. But I'm taping this between our New Year's, or the January 1st, and January 7th. But I will also be going to a village and celebrating with a family of a young man that I know, that I met through the academy. And he said he would take me to his village to see how they celebrate their Christmas in the village. And hopefully I'll have some more pictures on that. But I did want to give you what I have so far, the things that I took between December 25th and then New Year's Eve. This picture is interesting from a number of cultural perspectives. It kind of demonstrates something that you're going to see in the other pictures coming up. But first you see that the Santa Claus is very typically what we'd use. Some of the other pictures you'll see the Father Christmas is a little different. But the wording here is what's really interesting, because it's pronounced Lamalt An. They don't pronounce the I, so it's Lamalt An. During the time of the Soviet Union, in an attempt to get rid of any trappings of Christianity or religion, they got rid of the whole Merry Christmas concept. But interestingly enough, Lamalt An means Happy New Year. It's what they use for Happy New Year. But it also means Happy Birthday. It's what they say to each other on their birthdays. So it's sort of like, okay, this is Happy Birthday 2007 is what this sign says. But virtually everyone I asked, I said, what does that say? And they said, oh, that says Merry Christmas. Because what they did in their own minds during that time was turn that from Happy New Year's and essentially see it as saying Happy Birthday to Jesus. That's how they turned around what the government was trying to do and still made it a Christmas greeting. I thought that was just fascinating. Every one of the Moldovans I asked said the same thing. And I knew it didn't look like it. It took me a while to I had to look on the internet to find out what the words actually meant. Because virtually every person I asked here, when I said, what does that say? They said, oh, it says Merry Christmas. So the next few slides, I just want to show you some of the scenes that I came across while I walked around Chisinau on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Here's a typical scene that we'd expect to see. Those are all Christmas trees that are sitting there for sale. I've been told a lot of people get artificial trees here because if you're going to celebrate from the middle of December through the middle of January, a real tree wouldn't necessarily last that long. There's a street vendor selling garlands. He was selling bulbs, little gingerbread houses, the kind of things that you'd use to decorate your house. There's a Samsung office building with the Santa Claus over the door you can see down there in the left center of the picture. There's a local upscale women's clothing shop, it looks like. I haven't been in it, but from the windows, that's what it looks like. You can see some of the window decorations with the Christmas trees. And here's a close-up of one of the windows in the store. You can see the Christmas trees once again. White with the gold bulbs on them. I'm not sure if there's any significance at all to the masks that the mannequins are wearing, although being gold, they match the bulbs on the tree at least, so maybe it's just a fashion thing. I'd actually been walking for about 2 hours to take some of those pictures. The Samsung building and that are a little out of the way. So by now I was a little hungry, so I thought I'd stop and get something to eat, and I happened to be passing by an American Western themed restaurant called The Cactus. So I thought I would give it a try, and went in and sat down and had a bowl of chili and some bread, and as you can see on each table, it said Merry Christmas. It's kind of a nice way to spend lunch on Christmas Eve since I was there by myself. But after lunch, it was time to head to the center. This is the same place where we've seen the Chisinau Days, the wine festival, and this is the same area. This is where they do all that sort of thing. So you can see a large Christmas tree right there in the center. And this large poster is on the side of the government building. Once again, La Motte On. There were a lot of food stands. Some of it was more or less local people selling the things, breads and things that they made. Some of it were drink stands with alcoholic beverages and sodas and juices. Shot of the crowd milling around. And obviously it's a big family day. A lot of people pushing kids around, a lot of kids around. A lot of these strange animal type characters. I'm not sure if they're cartoon characters here, but some of them, as you'll see, are a little odd. These guys were playing music, or dancing as if they were playing music. The dog there in the front, as you can see, he's actually playing that broom, or, I don't know, it's not an air guitar, I guess it's an air broom. The guy there sitting on whatever kind of animal he is sitting on. It represents Father Christmas. That's a little more traditional look. We'll see a little bit more of that look in a minute. Yeah, I thought this was a pretty funny picture too. If you do a little research, you'll realize that before American writers in the 1800s put Santa Claus into a sleigh pulled by reindeer, traditionally he had been in not a sleigh, but a cart. I have not found any indication, I looked on the web some, that cart was normally pulled by pigs, but I have no idea why this is depicted this way. It is part of a tradition that they have here, and you've seen some of the other pictures we've looked at. Pigs are a big part of the tradition here, and in fact, pork is a big part of the meal here in the former Soviet Union in general, partly because pigs are easier to keep than cows. They're much cheaper. We in the United States are more oriented toward beef as a general rule, but over here they're more oriented toward pigs because of their cost. They don't take as much room. You need a lot of room to graze cows, and you don't need that kind of room. You can keep pigs in your backyard. So that's the tradition, and I thought that was a really funny picture. But as you can see from this, they do have mixed traditions. Here is Santa coming out of a castle, which would be a little unusual in America, but with a reindeer pulling him through the sky. And here the crowd of kids with balloons and parents looking around are waiting to see Father Christmas, as we'll see in the next slide. This slide represents a tradition that they are pretty steadfast on. Whereas we talk about elves helping Santa Claus get Christmas ready and distributing packages, over here it's his granddaughter that helps him. And that's represented always, from what I saw here, by a little girl, blonde hair, wearing blue and wearing a hat very similar to that. So that is pretty much a tradition that's different than us. It's Father Christmas and his granddaughter is the one who brings and distributes the presents for boys and girls. Now we're switching to New Year's Eve, and we're going to look at their fireworks once again in the same place downtown where we were. The lady in the white coat is Elena. Next to her is Sergio. Sergio is actually my translator at the academy. That's how I met all these other people, was through him. Next to him, standing behind, is Jan, and then another Elena, which, by the way, they translate for me to make it easy for me to say. The American version of that is Helen. And then next to her is Vitaly. So that's my New Year's Eve party. And their New Year's Eve celebration downtown would be much like ours, a first night, where there was music on the stages, there were some big screen TVs projecting the music, and there were fireworks at the end of the night. And these next few slides are those of the fireworks. And they were actually pretty good fireworks. They lasted about a half hour, and they were sort of typical for what we'd expect. And as always, it comes down to being about the people and especially about the kids. Look at the look on that little girl's face as she looks up at those fireworks. That's a look that you'd expect anywhere in the world. So as I pointed out at the beginning, this is part one. There's one more Christmas and one more New Year's to go. And I'll try and get some good pictures, see if there's any new traditions that we haven't learned about yet, and bring that information back to you as soon as I get it.